Konami has closed three of its gaming divisions. Now, I read over this article, and it said that while they closed three of their,
Here's the thing, though, and I just want to cut you off real quick.
okay,
Closed is the incorrect term. They use dissolved. And the reason why we use dissolved is because they've consolidated what they did with those divisions into a separate division. It's like renaming.
okay, that's what I was gonna say. So yeah,
Oh,
maybe close is the wrong word. They restructured.
yes.
They restructured. So here's the thing: a lot of people are criticizing Konami because they have so many legendary IPs that they do nothing with, and you're a huge Castlevania fan.
Konami used to be one of my main favorite companies, like of all time. Like literally, I'm surrounded by Konami things. I've got
Yeah,
Castlevania stuff. I've got Metal Gear Solid, Silent Hill.
yeah,
I love their games. Contra's another great one.
yeah.
And then
And
yeah,
as a retro collector, I mean, Konami has some of the best Nintendo games ever. You know what I mean? And it's like, but here's what the article said. The article said is that Konami as a business is doing phenomenal right now. They're doing amazing. So they don't have a fire under their butts to like kind of like put out a good gaming product. You know what I mean? They're just
it's because what they did in terms of focusing on what has been giving them the best revenue for little expenditure on their end is pachinko machines. And so, granted, us as gamers, we hate that move, but them as a company, it was a smart move for them.
it was. I mean,
It,
look,
it, it is, pardon, they're still doing it.
they're still doing it. Look, as a business, you want to have like a broad portfolio, right?
Yes.
You don't want to be like too reliant. Like if your main flagship product fails, you don't want to go bankrupt or whatever. But at the same time, it's like, look, these IPs just aren't yours 100%. Like you can't look at it as like, yeah, we can just shovel them away and nobody. There's people who care about these things. You know what I mean? Like there's communities built around them. I just saw a Doom mod for Castlevania. Somebody turned one of the older Castlevania games into a Doom game.
Project Warlord.
Yeah, people are
So
getting desperate, man.
so I disagree with you wholeheartedly
Yeah,
in terms of IPs not being theirs. They own those IPs. Granted, they're in the public conscience,
yeah,
but as far as ownership goes, they will own them. They will continue to own them. They created them. It's theirs.
yeah.
Like
No,
I
no.
can't I
I,
can't
I,
agree with you there.
I know what you're saying, but I'm saying like in the zeitgeist, they don't just own that.
Yeah, but they don't owe anything to us either in terms of like making things. And in that regard, that's why we get something like Metal Gear Survive, where they're like, "Oh, this thing is hot, people like it, whatever, just throw something out there." And it's trash.
Yeah,
They're gonna water down their brand. And so I'd rather them not bring out like BS than do that. Does that
yes,
make sense?
yeah.
So granted, they're not doing anything with it, but I think that is less harmful than bringing out crap.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you. But and here's something that I've been rolling around in my head. Like,
Because Sound Hill, and I'm just going to add on to this, Sound Hill has survived in terms of amazing storied game on maybe two games alone, Sound Hill 2 and Sound Hill 1.
mhm,
Sound Hill 3 was by and large a disappointment kind of after Sound Hill 2. And then
yeah,
Sound Hill 4, I mean it's gained some more popularity, but it was still kind of like an experiment
mhm,
that did fail. And
yes,
then Sound Hill Downpour and Sound Hill, oof, what was the other one called? Homecoming. They were just terrible.
Yeah.
So, like it's just been downhill from there. But that franchise, if anyone says downhill, they think of the amazingness, not the crap that became afterwards, the most recently.
Yeah. Yeah. But to be fair, Kojima put all that work into PT and then they did nothing with it.
Fair,
They had a
fair.
framework for a great game and they just shelved it.
But that was also around the same time. It was unfortunate timing because that was the same time that they were completely restructuring their own business.
Yeah.
And they were saying, and I mean like in a way, game development is at fault because it's so expensive to develop for games. And when you put all this money into something like Metal Gear Solid 5, which they did, and they didn't have the kind of sales and returns that they needed in order to be like, yeah, this is completely justifiable. They saw that and they were like, this is ridiculous. Spending so much time and effort and all this money on just one game
Yes.
when we can go ahead and get like more than enough profit for the entire company on a few on Pachi slot,
Yeah.
like that's where the balance, the tip of the scales occurred.
Yes.
And as a business move, it made sense.
Yes.
For us consumers, we definitely do not like that, and I
No.
completely, I'm part of it.
Yeah. Um,
But I mean, but it's also led to this boom most recently of all these great indie games, all these smaller titles, because game development is getting too insane.
it is. It is. And you're right. It does help indie development in a way because if people are craving a Castlevania, well, you had the director of Symphony of the Night branch off and make his
Made
own version.
Bloodstained.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's good. I love to see
And
that.
Bloodstained isn't demanding graphically. It's
No.
it's not what you would call a AAA title.
No.
But it was one of my favorite titles of that year. I loved Bloodstained, and it was a great throwback to Castlevania. It's Castlevania and everything but name only.
Yes. So this is what I propose, and I was thinking about it a lot. What I propose, obviously, no one from Konami is going to watch this, but what I propose is that they auction off these gaming IPs to studios that actually want to make these games, and they just wipe their hands of it because they clearly don't have any passion for them. They're not doing anything with them, and people want them. So why not sell them, make a good business move, make a profit off of them, and then let the story continue?
There's a flip side to that coin, and
Yeah.
that flip side is literally what they did before they even got rid of their gaming division, if you will,
Hmm.
is that they started to try to outsource game development with a lot of their games. Examples are Silent Hill Downpour and Homecoming. They were made by Western developers.
Yeah.
And you're giving it to people, but there's no guarantee that whomever you're giving your IP to, or you're letting your IP being borrowed from, will be successful. Case in point, Star Wars with EA.
Hmm.
Disney pretty much dissolved Lucasfilm Games,
Hmm.
but now they're bringing them back. But they dissolved it. They outsourced the Star Wars brand to EA. They had a 10-year deal, and EA did piss all with it. They did two Battlefront games, which were first person
Yes.
battle royale type games, and then they did Jedi Fallen Order, which granted
That was a
got
good one.
got some good
Yeah, that
reviews,
was a good
and
one.
then Star Wars Rogue Squadron. But Fallen Order and Rogue Squadron came after the disappointment from Battlefront 1 and
Yes.
2.
Yeah.
And that's within the span of 10 years.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's just one example of a brand being used by another company incorrectly, I believe.
Yes. But I would rather have that than them just do nothing with it forever.
But that just goes back to my original thing that you agreed with, which is like, yeah, I'd rather not have bad games
Yeah,
coming
I'm
out of
not
those
saying
IPs.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. You make good games. Like
Oh,
I'm not saying like just give them off to anyone and just let them like market off the title. I'm saying like give them to real developers that have their reputation on the line that are going to foster the growth of that IP. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Be very selective.
exactly. Don't just outsource it like, hey, we're going to ship it to this mobile developer that we don't, no one even knows their name, and they're just going to make a mobile version of this. No, no, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like,
They did that with Castlevania.
I know. That's why I said that. But I'm talking about real games, real developers who have their whole reputation on the line. Because
No rules, just right.
yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So I mean,
I'm talking about Outback. Get some steak.
so I mean, yeah. Wouldn't you rather see that than them just sitting on these and them collecting dust?
I'd rather they sit on them than give them to developers that don't know what they're doing. Honestly, I
Yeah.
don't know. Name a developer that you would trust with Metal Gear Solid that isn't Kojima. Like I can see Blue Point remaking Metal Gear Solid 1. That's the popular rumor going on right
Hmm.
now. And they even had like Metal Gear Rex sound effects. There was in Demon Souls, the most recent version
Hmm.
of Demon Souls. But me playing the original Demon Souls and playing the new Demon Souls, I'm not a huge fan of the changes that they made both in art direction and in gameplay. Like they simplified it to an extent. Um, so in regards to that, like Metal Gear is direction and art direction. And
Yeah.
like if you change it, kind of like they did with Metal Gear Twin Snakes,
Hmm.
which I think is an inferior version of the original Metal Gear,
Hmm.
it just serves little purpose than to what? Just to have an update? I don't know. Like like like
Yeah.
how do you vet that whomever you have developing the game will show the utmost respect and keep things canonical? And there's a lot of factors to it that I just I I guess I'm a glass half empty kind of guy. That's what I'm
Yeah.
trying and that's just my viewpoint.
Okay. Well, before we move on to the next topic, I'll just give one example where I think this was done perfectly.
Go ahead.
Um, you know, Hyrule Warriors.
What do you mean?
The way that they handled the Zelda IP.
But here's the thing. You're forgetting that shoot Aonoma, the director of Breath of the Wild, he had a very big part in it. Koei Tecmo were working hand in hand with Nintendo to create Hyrule Warriors. It wasn't just like Nintendo says, "Here, do whatever you want with Zelda."
Okay.
They had an active role and participation in the creation of that game.
Okay. Yeah. See, I didn't know that they were that like in lockstep.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that is
And
different
that's why
then.
Age of Calamity, that's why it's canon because they're working together to create it and make it cohesive with the Zelda mythos universe that they're building with
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild.
See, my thought of it was that they were making the game stand alone, but that they were just going back and forth with Nintendo to verify things. That was my standing. I didn't know that they were actually working with the actual team.
Yep.
That is different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess that doesn't apply. Well, I mean, I'm hopeful, man.
I
I
know,
just don't want Castlevania to die. I don't want Silent Hill to die. But
but I'd rather have Castlevania live on as Symphony of the Night, one of the best 2D platforming action games out there, versus Castlevania Harmony of Despair, a cash grab that's
yeah.
like a multiplayer cash grab that's out there, and it's just you reutilizing art assets, in just a bid to get
Yes.
money.
Yeah. Well, you bring up a good point. Maybe the best solution is just let indie developers fill the void, right?
Yeah, and create new experiences that
Yes.
play off of these older play styles because it's going to bring innovation to
Hmm.
it and new voices, new people to the scene. A good example literally is Hades.
Yes. Hades is a great example. All right.